wanted to thank so many of you for coming today. I'm Louise, I'm a volunteer at POTS UK, and we have the lovely Susan who is kindly given up her time to volunteer for us today to speak about her experiences. Um, so, on that, this is a webinar for Susan's experience. It's not medical advice, and what may work for Susan may not work for you guys. Or if you want to change anything after Susan's webinar, we do advise that you go to your own GP or medical professional so that you're doing anything under supervision. Um, and also, whilst obviously Susan has given up her time, most recently we've had a bit of negative comments on our social medias. So after this webinar, we do accept constructive criticism. So please let us know if there's stuff that you feel that we need to change. We'll be quite happy to, but we'd prefer you to put it in our survey after the webinar. And Susan's given up her time for us, so I hope that you would be very considerate back with any comments that you do have. And also, Susan's going to speak for roughly about half an hour, and we've got 15 minutes for any questions and answer session that you may have, probably from anything that Susan says. And if we don't have enough time to answer all your questions, Susan is happy to answer questions that are emailed to the inquiries at POTS UK, but I'll put that in the chat. And if you put Susan's webinar, we can give the questions to Susan and get them answered for you. Okay. When and where would the recording be available? I'm not certain, Katerina, at the moment. It may well be on our socials, but we need to edit first, so give it a good week or so, and if not, contact POTS UK. So before we start, I want to thank you again, Susan. Before we start the session today, can you just give us a little bit about yourself and how you came to have POTS?
I can, yes. So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. So my name's Susan and I'm 59 and I live in Northumberland in the northeast of England. I was diagnosed with POTS in April 2020 after being poorly for about a year. Although when I did finally get my diagnosis and they looked back over my history, they said that I'd probably had POTS from being a teenager and I'd been wrongly diagnosed over the years with lots of things that had been wrongly diagnosed. So from feeling very sickly as a teenager and going to the doctors quite a few times, saying that I always felt quite nauseous, struggling going to the toilet, being constipated quite a lot of the time, to be told by the family doctor, because in those days you had a family doctor rather than just a GP, to be told that it was just either a virus or remembering very clearly to be said, oh, you've been here a lot recently, haven't you? Or I think you might be a bit of a hypochondriac. To the point that I said to my mum, I'm not going anymore, even though I still always felt really, really sickly all of the time. And my stomach was always bloated. And I had really, really bad headaches all of the time. And I was just told I had migraine. And I just put up with it, to the point where maybe I went to the toilet maybe once every 4 weeks, had horrendous stomach pains. When I did go to the toilet, I was in agony. Um, and I just thought, I just got to, you get to the point where you think they're not going to do anything for you, so you just put up with it. And then I was going to Glasgow for the day with my two girls and my sister and her daughter. And I got up in the morning and felt, I just didn't feel very well. And I hadn't felt well for about a year and had put it down to stress at work because I'd had a really stressful year at work. But I just didn't feel very well at all. And I had been sort of feeling really dizzy and kept passing out and thought it was all just down to stress and thought, oh, should I go to Glasgow or should I not? We were going on the train. And I hummed and hawed about going, but I did go in the end. Um, but I felt terrible, and I got worse as the day went on. And when I came home, I was actually on a week's holiday, and um, when I came home, I just felt ill, and I ended up saying to my partner that I couldn't go back to work on the Monday because I felt so poorly. Went to the doctors because I just kept feeling really dizzy. I had my balance was terrible, and went to the doctors. And fortunately for me, I actually saw a student doctor who she was like a dog with a bone, and had all of these tests, and over a period of 9 months I was off work. It ended up because I was passing out while I was sitting down, I was passing out while I was standing up, I could just be walking and I would just pass out. I was dizzy all the time. um, and she thought I had cancer, she thought I had a brain tumor. um, all of these things, she didn't know what was wrong with me. I was having blood tests done every day. And then finally, she was talking to her supervisor at university, and she asked if she could use me as a case study. And her supervisor had said, because she's passing out all the time, she's got low blood pressure, why don't you send her to the elderly persons clinic? Bearing in mind, I was only sort of 54 at the time, and she said because if she's fallen over and it's her balance, and she's feeling dizzy, she might have something like vertigo. So I did get referred to the elderly persons clinic, and it's called the Falls and Syncope Clinic. And luckily, the doctor who runs that clinic is a PoTS specialist. And when I went to see him, he said to me, I'm going to give you a blood pressure machine, and I'm going to attach you to a heart monitor for a week, and then I want you to come back. So he did that, and I had that attached to me for a week. I went back, and it was like literally a week later when he then said to me, "You've got POTS. That's what's wrong. Your heart rate is far too high, and your blood pressure is far too low, and that's what's causing it." But he also diagnosed me with benign positional vertigo as well. So I had that as well. So that was causing problems at the same time. So I did get the diagnosis of POTS then. So it had taken 9 months. So that wasn't too long to get the diagnosis, where a lot of people, it takes a very long time, even though I'd been poorly for all those years, but didn't know that that's what it was. So that was the April 2020. But then in the November, bearing in mind that I was still feeling nauseous all of the time and he was playing around with medication, um, I still kept getting this feeling like there was something stuck in my throat and that I couldn't swallow things and I was feeling sickly. And on this Sunday night, I just felt like I had something stuck in my throat. And I'd been feeling really, really sickly for about 2 or 3 weeks, and it had been getting worse, and I was losing weight, and I'd sort of lost nearly 3 stone over about maybe 2 months. I'd lost 3 stone, so we were thinking there was something else wrong. Um, and on the Sunday night, I just was vomiting and vomiting and vomiting to the point where I couldn't stop. And we'd rang NHS 111, and they said that I needed to go down to accident and emergency because I was probably quite severely dehydrated. So I did go down to NHS, down to the hospital, and I was severely dehydrated, and ended up being in hospital for 3 weeks. And that's obviously when we realised that there was also something wrong with my stomach as well. And that's why I thought today would be quite nice to talk about gastro problems that and digestion problems, because from November 2020 I then got a further diagnosis which was linked to POTS, because obviously, as many of you know, there's lots of comorbidities that get diagnosed alongside POTS that cause quite a lot of problems as well.
Well, thank you for that, Susan, because that does bring us swiftly onto something that unfortunately you are probably quite knowledgeable about due to your own experience. So, first question I have for you: people with POTS commonly experience a wide range of digestive issues, and these gastrointestinal symptoms are often a primary aspect of POTS rather than a secondary. Can you tell us some of the some of the symptoms that you experienced?
Yeah, so when I went into hospital and I ended up being in there for 3 weeks, um, by that point in time, I hadn't been to the toilet for, I think it was about 4 or 5 weeks. I hadn't been to the toilet, and I just felt that there was something stuck in my throat. Um, and I'd been sick, and I was being sick, and even though I was being sick, there was literally nothing left, but I was still continually reaching all of the time. Um, my stomach was huge, it was bloated, it was swollen, um, and even though they thought, did you had IBS? And I said, it can't be IBS because I've never had diarrhea. It's always just been the constipation that I've had. Um, so it was like the vomiting, the nausea, which was accumulation of that. So they were still they said there was nothing stuck in my throat. Obviously, they put a camera down. They said there was absolutely nothing there. So they said, there's nothing there, nothing stuck, but I still felt very, very sick. And I don't know if anybody feels like it, but there's nothing worse than when you feel very, very sick. And there was just lots of bile and everything coming up. So that was the symptoms of just feeling and reaching continually, and even sort of trying to swallow water. It was as if nothing would go down, but I was producing lots and lots of saliva. So that was really wanting. So you want to be sick all the time, but nothing would go down. So even trying to swallow the saliva, it just wouldn't go down. So that was just really, really uncomfortable all of the time.
That yes, that does sound very
Yeah,
uncomfortable, and obviously, yeah, it sounds quite stressful having to try and prove yourself again to the medical professionals.
yeah.
So then, how have these impacted your quality of life? I should imagine significantly.
Yeah, absolutely. So during those 3 weeks, they agreed that eventually they decided to put a camera all the way down.
Mm.
And considering I hadn't had anything to eat, I'd been in hospital for 3 weeks. Um, my stomach still had food in, and they said that it shouldn't have. They said, the amount of times you've been sick, and for how long you've been in hospital, your stomach should be empty. So they decided that I must have some kind of slow transit problem. And because I had said to them that I also hadn't been going to the toilet, and they said, it's impossible that you couldn't have gone for that length of time. And I said, no, I really haven't gone to the toilet and I don't go. So they decided they would actually get me to swallow some magnets as well. Now, that's not big magnets. What they do, they give you these little tablets and you swallow them for 3 days in a row at a certain time. And then they x-ray you to see where the magnets are and how far they've gone down your system. So that was quite funny actually, because there's something like 360 magnets once they dissolve in your stomach. Um, and when they then did the x-ray after the 3 days that I'd done them, they stand and count them to see where they are, expecting you to have passed them out. Um, and the radiologist, I could hear her saying to someone else, you need to come and look at this x-ray. And I thought, oh, that's got to be me that they're talking about. And all 360 were still there, but they were still up here. They hadn't moved down at all. So there was, and they, bearing in mind, they think they should have passed some. They were all still sitting up here. So they hadn't even moved down at all. So at that point in time, they diagnosed me with widespread autonomic failure, which basically means that your muscles aren't working properly. So from your gut, and it's got a proper name, and I can never pronounce it. So I've got it written down. It's called oesophageal dysmotility. Is when your muscles from here down to your stomach don't work properly and they're really slow. And then it's called panentenic dysmotility, when it's the muscles from the bottom of your stomach to your bottom don't work properly either. So if you can imagine, it doesn't push your food down, and then once your food's down, your muscles then don't push it out of your bottom either. And when it does push it down, it only pushes it so far. So when you talk about your quality of life, if you can imagine, if you need to go to the toilet, and this is disgusting, so I do apologise. It was just pushing all the poo down, but it didn't.
Oops, Susan, you've cut out. Apologies, everyone.
All due, so it was stopping my muscles.
Sorry, Susan,
Um,
you cut out at pushing the poo down. It went, so I don't know how much you were going to do in between there.
right, so it wasn't pushing it down, so
Mm.
it caused something called a deficit. So it's like it creates a second bowel. And what they realised then was my muscles don't work properly either. So they then started doing other tests and discovered that I'm hypermobile, which means that my muscles just basically do what they want to do. They overstretch, which meant that instead of going to the toilet, my muscles were just stretching and accommodating the poo and not going to the toilet because they were just stretching and stretching. And so I wasn't going to the toilet. So I ended up with a tube down my nose, and it was bypassing my stomach and going straight down into my jejunum. So they said then, you can't eat anything. You won't be eating anymore at all now. And it was quite funny because my mum was alive then, and it was November, and she bought me biscuits and chocolate and everything for Christmas. And I said, I'm not allowed to eat. She went, oh, but you'll be fine by Christmas. And that was 2020, and I still don't eat now, and it's 2025. So the huge impact is, so I was being fed just it's like a feed through my nose, and it was bypassing my stomach straight into my jejunum.
Can I stop
Um,
you there, Susan? Can you just let people know roughly what the jejunum is? The people that don't.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
so the
you.
jejunum is it sits underneath your stomach. So if your stomach doesn't work, it's the little bit under your stomach. So that's where your food will go, so that it takes all of the nutrients that you need. So because I feel so sick all of the time, it's because it hits my stomach. And they decided if they could bypass my stomach and the food just goes directly straight into my jejunum, which is underneath, and then your body just takes out what you want, and the rest then just comes straight through to like into your bowel, into your large intestine, and then your small intestine. So it means like, because normally your food goes into your stomach and it sits there, and your body does whatever it wants with it, and then it passes through, and it goes on a very long journey through all your intestines. So mine was bypassing that. So they said I would have that in down my nose for about 12 weeks. I had it in for 18 months, because they didn't know what else to do. Because it's very unusual to have both ends not working. So it meant that I was walking around with this tube attached to my nose, and behind my ear all of the time. They still didn't know what to do with the back end of me. So it meant that I had to carry a backpack all of the time with me wherever I went, because I was being fed 24 hours of the day constantly, and it weighed a ton. And I already have degenerative back disease, which they've said is part of the PoTS, because it's it's the muscles in, like in between your discs. You have like your spongy bits of your discs. They are like a muscle, and they've said that's degenerative because of PoTS. It's degenerating. It's sort of crumbling. So they've said that's part of the PoTS that's doing that. So carrying this backpack all of the time, everywhere I went, I had to have the backpack with me. feeding all of the time. So even in bed, like my partner just couldn't sleep in bed with me because of the noise of the machine going constantly. And if it blocked, I was back in hospital getting it unblocked because it wasn't just going down into your tummy, it was going all the way down. If you can imagine, past your belly button, going down there. So, like, for instance, I was in hospital on Christmas Day because it got blocked, and I had to go back in and get it refitted. So I was in and out of hospital probably every 6 weeks getting it refitted because it got blocked. Um, so like my quality of life just completely changed. I couldn't go out for a meal, with family meals. Nobody wanted to go to a cafe with me because I couldn't eat and drink or anything. So that everyone felt uncomfortable around me because I wasn't eating and drinking. So it just completely changed everything. So you've got your pots where you don't socialize because you're too tired. I had the added bit where I also couldn't eat and drink either, so it affected like your social life on that side as well. So it completely impacted on my social life. And then when I went back to work, I kept setting everything off because everyone could hear this machine. So the security man, even though they knew, I kept setting all the alarms off because it was an electric machine I was going through. So you can imagine, and I used to fly down to London because I worked in London. So I ended up getting the train to work because I was sick of setting the security off with having a backpack with all this electric stuff going through. And you can imagine going through security,
Yeah.
and you've got this thing touched to you, and can we just have a look in your bag? And then you're like, well, I need my bag, and having to pick because you've got this tube attached to you and everything. So
Mm.
it's just a bit of a nightmare all of the time. So it just totally impacted on my life, having this tube attached down my nose. Um, and then after I had the tube in my nose, they then decided I would have a jejunostomy, which meant that instead of having the tube down my nose, I then had it actually directly in my jejunum. So I had the tube in my tummy then instead.
Mhm.
So that even made it worse because I had a tube coming out my stomach, um, around to my bag. So that made it even worse, even when people were asking me to take my bag off, can you pass me your bag? And I went, no, it's attached to me, I can't.
Mhm.
So it was quite funny. It makes me laugh now when people used to say, can you take your bag off so I can have a look inside of it, please? And I was saying, well, no, I can't actually, it's attached to me. So yeah, it just completely changed my life, to the point where I did actually have to give up work. Not just because of that, but because of everything to do with my PoTS as well. But that had a huge impact on it because I couldn't eat and drink. Because the one thing with PoTS, as you know, is you have to drink lots more water. And that was the one thing I couldn't do, was keep my liquids up. So I was dehydrated quite a lot of the time.
Wow, thank you. There's a few more questions I had to ask you, but some of that I thought it's been fascinating that actually you may have already answered before I'm going to ask
Yeah,
you. But I'm going to actually leave the more medical type things to the end. But so
yeah,
have you got any more to say about any more any changes on your in your lifestyle? It sounds like you'd already changed a lot, but did you have any more
yeah.
changes?
I think so, yeah, because obviously that's sort of the top end of my body. So obviously
Mm.
the next thing that went wrong was they decided that obviously there was something going on and my muscles weren't working. So they decided that they would then put a camera up the back end to see what was going on as well. And unfortunately, on the night after they put the camera in, my bowel actually fell out. Um, and they said that was because the muscles just weren't working and because they'd aggravated it, they'd fallen out. But that happened in the October, and nobody across I'm part of the Three Ends Trust, it's called. So it's Newcastle, North Tyneside, and Northumberland, and no surgeon across all of those three hospital areas would touch me, would operate and put it back because they didn't know what would happen because they'd never come across it before where someone's muscles weren't working. So I had to live with that for from October through until the May, when finally a surgeon from Gateshead, which isn't part of our area health authority, said that if they referred me over to him, he would actually look at me and talk to me. So I got referred over to this other surgeon and consultant, and he asked me what would I like to make my life better because of the pain I was in and not being able. I couldn't sit down, I couldn't lie down. I was basically sitting on one cheek at a time, and I didn't go out the house because obviously I was in so much pain. I was wearing period underwear because I was leaking continually because obviously my bowel was hanging out. I was so uncomfortable. By this time, my relationship, which I had been living with my partner for 17 and a half years, that had totally broken down because of my health was so bad. I'd been in and out of hospital, literally sort of every few weeks I was back in and out of hospital. He asked me what would I want to improve my quality of life, and I just said, just take my bowel out. I've had enough of it. It doesn't work. Just take it out. And I don't care what's going to happen. I just want to improve the quality of my life. And he said that he would do that. He would give me an ileostomy, and he would repair the damage that had been done. So he agreed to do that. Unfortunately, when he did the surgery, there was too much damage, and he had to remove my rectum and everything because the muscles were so badly damaged. So I do have an ileostomy now. And at the same time, my jejunostomy broke, which is the jejunostomy which was feeding me in my stomach. So that broke as well at the same time.
Yeah.
It snapped, and I had to have emergency surgery. And so I've now got a peg instead of the jejunostomy. So I have a peg in my stomach, and I have a stoma now as well, like an ileostomy. So it just completely changed my life. So I've had to grieve for bits of my body have gone. So all my clothes that I had didn't fit because I've got two extra bits of body now. I have a tube out the top of me that hangs out all of the time, and that leaks all of the time because my muscles don't work, so it doesn't. If you can imagine, you've got a hole like that, and the peg fits in, and it's supposed to fit tight, but because my muscles don't work properly, it sits like that, so it leaks continually. And I've had an infection since last September because it is leaking, so it gets burnt all the way around here. It's burnt on my stomach, but it's better than having a tube down on my face all of the time. And the stoma, although I've had problems with it, I'm not in pain anymore, where I was in pain constantly. And yes, I have to empty it about 10 times a day because you have constant diarrhea because it's in your small intestines. And obviously, I don't have a rectum anymore. It's all been sewn up, but I don't have that pain anymore. But it's completely changed my life from the way I look. I'm very self-conscious now, whether you can see the bag, and it plays its own tune. I can be sitting in somewhere very, very quiet, and it's like having a little wind orchestra with you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So it can be highly embarrassing when you're just standing there. It's not like passing wind. It literally is like having a wind orchestra with you, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I have to laugh or I would cry sometimes. So it's completely changed my life just from having, from my muscles not working. And every time something goes wrong, and I've got a hernia underneath my stoma, which is caused from my muscles not working properly. And I've got 7 consultants now, all working on different parts of my body because of the muscles not working properly. So, but I just keep thinking there's people who are worse off than me, and I'm certainly not in the pain I was in. So, and my family now do go out for meals with me because I'll have a coffee, um, and I'll have like a latte. Sometimes the coffee doesn't go down, sometimes it does. Sometimes I can have a meringue, something that'll melt as long as I don't have to chew it, then I'm okay with it. So it's like I can have like it's likes of a meringue because it just melts when I eat it and I don't have to actually swallow it, it'll go down. So they will now actually go out with me now where they didn't want to go out with me at all previously. So that has improved a little bit. So, but it's like I've had to change absolutely everything. Um, but like going if I go to my daughter, she's got a supply feed. Um, like if I go away, I've only ever gone away for a couple of days at a time,
Mhm.
because of how much gear I have to take with me.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a challenge, going anywhere because I had my driving license taken off me because of the passing out and everything. So if I go anywhere, I have to go on public transport unless I'm with my sister or a member of my family who drive me somewhere. So
Mhm.
it's a bit of a nightmare of how much I have to take with me if I go anywhere as well. So it's a case of a machine and a charger and all of my stoma stuff as well. So it's two lots of stuff and everything. So it's completely it's like having a baby where
I
you've
was
got your
just about
changing
to say, it
bag.
reminds you of your
Yeah, it's
child.
like a
Yeah, yeah.
changing bag and everything, and
Yeah.
a change of clothes, a change of underwear, because sometimes it leaks, sometimes my bag comes off, so it's just a change of everything. So yeah, complete
Thank you,
change.
Susan. I'm just going to end it with one question because we've got a little bit over time and I want to allow time for people. If you've got any questions, and I know even for me, and I know Susan, it's been a lot to take in a really good way. It's been really informative, Susan. So again, if you can't think of anything now, contact us later, but any questions will be greatly received. What does the future look like now for you?
I think it's more of the same. Both my consultants have said that I will need more operations, but they're both of them are dubious about operating because both of them have said they just don't know what my muscles are going to do. So they won't operate unless it's an absolute emergency. Um, the peg that I've got at the minute, they do want to drop the extension down, but because it's sitting in my stomach at the minute, so I'm still very sickly all of the time, and I'm still being sick, even though because it's a feed I'm having, but because it's hitting my stomach. But until they can get the infection under control, they won't drop the rest of the tube down into my jejunum, which is where it's supposed to be. But he's worried that if he drops it down, he doesn't know what the muscle's going to do when he does that. And my consultant who looks after my stoma, my hernia is getting bigger, but he's worried if he tries to repair it, will that cause another set of problems with the muscles? Will that just do something worse?
Mm.
So it's basically I'm living with what I've got at the minute. So it's just more of what's going on. It's just managing it. So it's more of the same at the minute. So, it's good days and bad days. Some days, like I say, if I didn't laugh, I think I would cry. So it is. Some days I do feel, why me? What have I done to deserve this? And other days I think, well, there's people a lot worse off than me. Um, and I just get on with it because I just think I haven't got a choice. I've just got to get on with it. And I have this support back. I have everyone at PoTS UK who are fantastic. Everyone, we've all made so many friends with PoTS UK who've helped get on with everything. So
Well, thank Susan. I mean, you shouldn't like. Why shouldn't you have a why me moment? You've gone through the worst end of the gastro side of
yeah,
pots that you could ask for. So, guys, it's opened up to any of your questions. At the moment, I've got Nicola that's saying thank you so much for sharing, Susan. You are such a strong person and all the best and a love
thank
heart.
you,
Okay. And Rima says, hi, Susan. It was nice to meet another sufferer at 50 plus with POTS, which again, it's very appealing. So we'll leave it a few minutes if you want to, any questions and answers, either in the chat or the Q&A box is great. Louise says, thank you so much for sharing your experience. You've been through so much. I wish you all the best with managing your digestive issues and GI issues. So yeah, lots of support. Thank you guys. That's really, really kind. But
thank you.
I mean, Susan's happy to answer any lesser digestive issues? Because I'm sure she's been through all of those to get where,
Yeah,
unfortunately, she is today.
yeah,
If there's okay.
yeah. Or if you want to send one in, if it's more personal and you want to send something in, then do email it in and I can answer it on a more personal level with you as well. Because obviously I started off with gastroparesis as well. So, that's absolutely fine. I don't mind answering it on a personal level. Um,
Yep,
that's
I put that
absolutely
in the
fine.
chat. I put links to the other webinars and any inquiries, but just mention Susan's name, and then we'll know to give it to Susan, and then she can answer back for you, because it is quite a personal subject, to be fair, that
It
you are
is, yeah.
Susan. So again, extremely brave anyway. Right, okay. Katerina, thank you for sharing, Susan. My digestive issues are one of the most disabling things from my POTS. You hear so much about POTS and heart rate and not enough about the digestive side of things. My digestive system works, just one part is too slow and up the other too fast. Feels like I'm being crushed from the inside out, and standing makes everything 10 times worse. Plus a 2-year waiting list for gastro, so this is how life is for now. Never thought my stomach would be the main thing to get me into a wheelchair. She's put a laughing emoji. Can you
Yeah.
understand, empathise with that, Susan?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like it's the pain and the crushing. I can fully understand that. The pain sometimes is just, it's like as if someone's like literally crushing you. And sometimes the pain is like as if someone's like just got a screwdriver and just really just turning around it. It is. And I can't stand for long either because of like with the pain and everything, you're doubled up with pain as well sometimes. And it's very tiring because it's your muscles, because it's everything that you think it just happens naturally and you've got no control over it either. So it is, it's because I have a stroller that I use, which also is a wheelchair as well, because I use that as well, because sometimes it's so debilitating that you can't sort of walk around as well. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Wow. Thank you. It's all coming in now for you, Susan. So I just wanted Lily before, because Emma actually does have a question, but Lily's saying, thank you so much for
yeah,
sharing, Susan. I had no idea you could have the digestive issues from POTS and EDS. So incredibly informative for my own digestion issues. Great. Hopefully you take something away.
yeah,
Wishing you all the best and hope you continue to get the support you need. So Emma Manser, thank you. I have colonic dysmotility and rectocele for similar reasons. POTS and hypermobility. Can these things get worse over time? Currently managed with Lexido and Procalipride,
yeah.
but we know what the
Yeah.
future holds.
Yeah, I was on Procalipride. Um, I had every laxative under the sun, and all it did was give me pain and made my bowel contract, but it didn't because the muscles weren't working. All it did was make it like contract, but not push down. So the pain was even worse. So that was just horrendous. And yeah, I've got worse over time. It has got worse. And that's why I said to the consultant I saw at Gateshead and said, look, my quality of life is horrendous. I just take my bowel out and like my stomach, just stop using my stomach. And that's why. And I've actually just been in hospital for 3 weeks because my stomach got blocked. And when my stomach was blocked, my stomach was even worse. Um, to the point where they were going to feed me through a central line because it was that bad. So it can be really, really, really debilitating. So it can get worse over time. So it's about managing it and finding how you can manage it. But I have a community dietitian that I see as well, um, who manages me at the same time to make sure, and the amount of drugs I take, because obviously I'm just on a feed about how many all the different vitamins and everything to make sure that I have everything that's going in. So yeah,
Thank you very much, Susan. Sorry, I've got the last two, which kind of combine that we can fit in
yeah,
before it all goes. Is everyone saying thank you and are actually shocked at the amount, at how much it can affect you. So Tabitha says, hi, I think I might have gastroparesis. What were your symptoms? But then also Maya, and I'm hoping it's Maya, she said, thank you for sharing, Susan. The digestive side is what I've started my issues 7 years ago. I have severe pain after eating, and also I suffer with chronic constipation even with laxatives. I struggle to eat food. I'm currently waiting till table for POTS. and I've recently got a diagnosis of EDS. Just wondering what your symptoms of gastroparesis were and what tests to diagnose. Is it
Yeah,
just the
so
magnets?
it's not just the magnets, no. So you have what you have I had to eat an omelette and a jam sandwich that had it had like a radioactive substance in, so they could then actually watch it going through your system, um through like x-rays to see where that was going and if it was getting stuck anywhere. I also had an awful test where they actually pumped it's called a pouchogram, where they actually fill your bowel up from the bottom end, and then they make you then try and push it out to see what muscles are working and which ones aren't working. So they do that as well. For the symptoms for gastroparesis, it's like I said right at the beginning, it can be like diarrhea, sickness, feeling bloated. It can be where you think you've got diarrhea, but you're actually constipated and it's just an overflow, that it's just the liquid. It's not diarrhea, it's actually just an overflow squeezing out around the constipation. And it's horrendous stomach cramps. That's all part of your gastroparesis. And also where you're vomiting or you feel nauseous all the time. That's all about like what gastroparesis is. And yes, the sandwich is your gastric emptying study. That's what that is. Yeah. So
Brilliant. Is
yeah,
there any more, Susan? Because I've got one more lady that's come in that
yeah,
wants a Q&A.
yeah.
And then thank you. Your explanations are really, really good, Susan. I'm hoping people are getting a lot from this. Right, Louise says, I was very interested in hearing you talk about the muscle degeneration. This is something I need to explore with my GP, but it's almost too difficult to verbalise to a GP who does not understand POTS, let alone the other things that come with it. Do you have any advice as to what to say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky, but my GP, she's on the sick at the minute, but she's been very good. But because my opticians helped me a lot as well, because my eyes have been really bad, and he explained to me, and it was his explanation that helped me explain it to my GP, because he said your eyes are muscles as well, because my eyes have changed shape. And he said it's all down to the fact it's a muscle, Susan, and because you've got problems with your muscles, it's your eyes aren't working properly because of their muscles, and your muscles, there's something wrong with your muscles. Um, and he said it's all of your muscles in your body aren't working properly. So, but even the consultants, like I said before, like the two consultants who are looking after me at the minute, they don't want to operate because there's something going on. They don't know how my muscles are going to react. And just this week, I've actually torn my rotor cuff in the last couple of weeks in my shoulder, and I went to see the MSK team, who are like the muscular skeletal team, and they just said, "Oh, we would normally put steroid in your shoulder," which I've had previously to being diagnosed with POTS. And they said, "We can't do that now that you've got POTS because your muscle and your tendon might just pop completely because we don't know how your muscle will react now that you've got POTS." So that's all around your muscles to do with how it works. So it's like it was my orthopedic surgeon who, because I'm waiting to have back surgery because of how much the sponges, the discs are degenerating. It was him who told me that I've got degenerative back disease, but he has also diagnosed me with, I've already got fibromyalgia, but he's just diagnosed me with polymyalgia, which is pain in the muscle rather than the fibromyalgia. And he said it's all to do with my POTS, and it's the pain in the muscles that is giving me, because I have chronic pain, and that's all to do with my muscles just not working properly and not, doing what they should be doing.
Mhm.
So if you go back to the original, if anyone ever asks you to describe what POTS is, and you say it's everything that your body does normally without you thinking about it, your heart beating normally and breathing and all of that, your muscles normally work without you thinking about it because it's natural, and it's because your muscles aren't working normally and that's part of POTS. So, and that's what it is, and that's what my optician said. Your eyes aren't working normally because it's your muscles, and your muscles aren't working normally. And 3 consultants now have said to me, "We don't know why your muscles aren't doing that they're supposed to be doing." So that's why the 2 of them aren't gonna operate. One is he's gonna just remove 3 of my discs. I'm just waiting to get the date through, because he said, "I can't risk them doing any more than what they're doing because they're almost crushing my spinal cord." So he says, "We can't risk it doing any more." Um, and I've already got a cage here where the muscle had already gone so far and had crushed my spinal cord up here. So it's just where your muscles are. So I think with your GP, you're just going to have to go and explain to him that your muscles, because your muscles are part of your body, that just is part of POTS where they don't work properly, and it can affect your muscles.
Yep, and, sometimes it sounds like even with you, Susan, even having to tell doctor that simplistic
It is,
sentence is perhaps what they need.
it is
Yeah.
sometimes that simplistic bit where it's
Mhm.
the parts of your body that just work without we thinking about it, because
Yeah.
they're the natural. It's your autonomic system. That's why it's called autonomic, because it works autonomically. You know, it works on its own. Like if you think automatically, it's very similar to that.
Yep. Well, thank you, Susan. Louise says thank you for this answer about the muscle degeneration. She'd not appreciated how much impact it can have on your body, and so
Yeah,
much of what you said has chimed with what's happened for your body. And she's
yeah.
still at age as well. Well, this is the conclusion now. So I would just wanted to thank you especially, Susan. This has been really
You're
great,
welcome.
and thank you for your great explanations and insight. And thank you all for attending. It's been a lovely webinar. I've got the details of if you need to contact Susan, or if you any questions about the webinar at the inquiries at POTS UK, and I've got some links for any of the other webinars that have been happening this month. So I bid you all a lovely day, and thank you, Susan,
You're
and
welcome.
take care.
Yeah, take care, everyone. Nice to see you. Well, I didn't
Yeah.
say anyone, but nice to hear everyone
Yeah.
talking. Yeah.
See
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.